There are so many storylines right now happening around the Ontario Hockey League. It just makes this time of year so exciting. From the home and home series that we saw between the Kitchener Rangers and the London Knights to the battles for playoff positioning in both the East and the Western Conference. We are in for a fun finish for the Ontario Hockey League season. So let's dive into it. The power rankings for January 22nd. It's basically a look back at the week that was and what to look forward to in the coming days. And we're going to start off at number 20. No surprise, really. The Peterborough Petes, again, the 20th ranked team in the power rankings, so no change for them. The struggles, they just continue for the Petes right now. They went 0-3 last week, and their losing streak is now at 8 games. I'm starting to sound like a broken record. I think that this is kind of a part of the plan. It was expected. They sold off at the OHL trade deadline, picking up those young pieces, and I think the future does look bright for this Peterborough Petes team. But despite all the struggles, Pete's goaltender, Liam Stuchka, he's now third in the league in save percentage at 910. He's also, I think, the reason why this team is kind of staying competitive in their games. You just look at the number of shots he's faced over the last 2 games last week, a total of 95 shots in those 2 games, and he made 90 saves. So don't tell Stuchka that the season might be in doubt, but he's keeping the Petes in it, and they hold on to that final playoff spot still in the Eastern Conference. So the Petes looking to the future, but one thing that stood out this week too, in the game against the Saginaw Spirit, they unveiled new black alternate jerseys. They look sharp. The only thing, though, I'm coming from a broadcaster's perspective, the numbers and the nameplate might be a little challenging to read. I haven't seen the jerseys in person yet. I'm just going by the video footage I've seen and the pictures. It could be a challenge for broadcasters, but other than that, the Peterborough Petes have some pretty sweet third jerseys, and they might have one of the better jersey sets in the Ontario Hockey League right now, the maroon and white with a splash of black right now. Looking forward to this weekend, the Petes, they do play a 3-3 starting at home against Ottawa Thursday night, and then they travel to London to face those red-hot Knights and then end it in Windsor. Coming in at number 19, it's the Barrie Colts. So again, no change from last week. Barrie, they went 1-2, and those 2 losses were both against the Sudbury Wolves. The win, however, was a big one, a 7-0 win over the Niagara Ice Dogs. Sam Hillebrand recording his first career OHL shutout. He made 42 saves in the victory. Now the Colts, they're 2 points out of the playoff spot in the East behind the Peterborough Petes, so that it's within striking distance. So playoffs not out of the equation yet for the Barrie Colts. And the line right now of Ty York, Riley Patterson, and Cole Baudouin, they are getting the job done, especially the play of Ty York. He's been getting plenty of goals, and then you've got Cole Baudouin just using his size and that shot. He's been getting on the score sheet, and Riley Patterson around the net. His lacrosse skills definitely on full display. If you haven't seen the interview I did with Riley Patterson talking about his lacrosse experience, you'll want to check out that video, Catching Up with Riley Patterson. He kind of talks a bit about that, and it kind of then you could see how he's using that skill set to what he's doing right now on that line. So the Barrie Colts, they have 3 games this weekend. They're home against Owen Sound and Oshawa before traveling to North Bay Sunday afternoon. And you're going to notice those 3 teams the Colts play, they're pretty high up in the power rankings. So it's going to be another tough weekend for the Barrie Colts. Coming in at number 18, it's the Niagara Ice Dogs. They fell 2 positions. I had Niagara below Barrie after Saturday's 7-0 loss. But Charlie Robertson, he stood on his head against his former team, the North Bay Battalion, making 34 saves in the 3-2 win. And of course, going into that game, North Bay was first in the Central Division. So the Niagara Ice Dogs getting a huge win on the road. For Niagara, they are playing for their playoff lives right now, and they need those types of performances if they want to make the playoffs. They're right now 5 points behind Peterborough for that final playoff spot. So the Ice Dogs, their playoff hopes not lost yet. But they're going to need some more big performances like that. Niagara, they do host Brantford Thursday night before traveling to Kingston and Ottawa. Coming in at number 17, no change. It's the Sarnia Sting. Despite selling off at the trade deadline, Sarnia, they are finding ways to stay competitive in the chase for a playoff spot in the West. They were 1-2 last week, but they got a huge win in Flint against the Firebirds, and they're now 1 point behind Flint for that final playoff spot in the West. Kai Schwint, he's been playing great for Sarnia, registering 4 goals and assists last week. So he is standing tall. For Sarnia, just 2 games on the road this week, first in Guelph and then they go up to Sault Ste. Marie on Sunday. So a tough challenge ahead for them on the road. But this is a Sting team that they might be young, but they're pretty competitive. At number 16, we have the Mississauga Steelheads. They are up 2 positions this week. It was an average week for the Steelheads. They went 1-1-1, but they're getting 3 out of a possible 6 points. That does help them keep pace in the East. Their one win, that was in Niagara, so that was a game they should win. But then it was an overtime loss to North Bay and then shut out 3-0 by the Bulldogs. So Mississauga, just 3 wins in their last 10 games, but still, looking at the standings, they're 4 points out of first place in the Central Division. So despite their struggles these last few weeks, Mississauga not far out of it yet. So they only have 2 games this week, first at home against Flint, and then they travel to Brantford. At number 15, the Kingston Frontenacs, no change for them. It was a rough week for Kingston. They went 0-2 with losses against Owen Sound and Saginaw, both at home. The Frontenacs, they're kind of a team you would expect more from, but I'm wondering if they're now starting to play Mason Vicari too much. He leads the league in games played for goaltenders with 38, and his backup, JJ Selico, he's only appeared in 7 games this season. So is fatigue becoming a factor in their goaltending situation? And maybe they should have picked up another goaltender at the OHL trade deadline. There was some speculation that they were looking at a goaltender, but it just never came to be. And now Vicari, you don't want him to be exhausted going into the playoffs. And for Kingston, they've got the firepower up front. I believe they've got some great defense with Roman Schmidt and company. So I think this is a team that could do more, but maybe they need to pace their goaltender a little bit. That's just my opinion on Kingston. The Frontenacs, they're right now 7th in the East and just 8 points ahead of the Barrie Colts, who are 9th. So if they don't start stringing some wins together here, could we be looking at Barrie or Niagara potentially chasing both Peterborough and Kingston for those final 2 playoff spots? Kingston, they do have 2 games this week. First, they're at home against Niagara, so that's an important game. And then they travel to Brantford, so a division opponent. Number 14, the Windsor Spitfires, they fell 1 position. It was a rough week for Windsor. They went 0-3, and they're now just 2 wins in their last 10 games. They were one of the hotter teams in the league following their slow start to the season. But now they're still 7 points out of a playoff spot, so it's still possible as long as they can figure things out quickly. This is a Windsor team that has shown spurts that they can play with the big teams and they can be competitive. But just of late, just something again seems off. And almost as if we're going back to the habits we saw before they fired Jared Smith behind the bench. So for the Windsor Spitfires, I think they might be starting their fall down the power rankings. Pasquale Zito, though, he's fit in nicely since coming back to Windsor. 3 goals, 3 assists, good for 6 points in 4 games. So Pasquale Zito trying to do his part in keeping a fight for that playoff spot in the West. Windsor, they do have 3 games this week, starting at home against Saginaw, so that won't be easy. And then they host Peterborough before going to the Dow Event Center in Saginaw. Number 13, it's the Flint Firebirds. They fell 1 position. Flint, they dropped their 2 games they played last week, and their losing streak is now at 3 games, so there's some concerns right now with the Firebirds. Flint, 3-7 over their last 10 games, and they're holding on to that final playoff spot by just 1 point ahead of the Sarnia Sting. They only have 2 games this week, and both are on the road. They'll be in Mississauga Friday night, and then Owen Sound on Saturday. At number 12, we have the Erie Otters. They fell 1 position. It was a busy week for Erie. They played 4 games in total, going 2-2 with wins against Sarnia and Sudbury, and that Sudbury win was on the road at the Sudbury Community Arena, so a great effort there. Sam Alfano, he had a pretty good week, registering 3 goals in the 4 games. Well, Pano Femus, he's now riding a 7-game point streak. So Femus, great in the face-off circle and also getting the job done with the points and helping the Otters stay competitive. Erie, they have 1 more game on the road in Oshawa before hosting London on Saturday. At number 11, the Ottawa 67s. They fell 1 position this week, and it's been a tough go for Ottawa of late. They went 0-1-1 last week, and that overtime loss was against the Owen Sound Attack. They had a 5-1 lead in the 3rd period and then lost 6-5 in overtime. So a very disappointing game there for Ottawa. It looked like they were going to get that win, but they just they couldn't finish. You got to play that full 60 minutes, and it just wasn't happening. This is a 67s team that has shown that they can be competitive, and that East Division is wide open. So we'll see if they can turn it around in the final stretch here. Luca Pinelli, third in goals in the OHL with 30, but he only has one goal in his last 4 games. So Luca Pinelli has kind of cooled off a bit. He scored in the game against Owen Sound, so maybe he'll start to pick it up. The Ottawa 67s, they have 3 games this week. First in Peterborough Thursday before hosting Niagara, and then they head down to Oshawa to face the Generals. At number 10, the Owen Sound Attack, the biggest climber of the week. They're up 4 positions. The Attack, they enjoyed their tour through Eastern Ontario. They went 3-0, and that includes the come-from-behind win over the Ottawa 67s in overtime. Cedric Gandon, he was the overtime hero in the Ottawa game. Well, Colby Barlow, he had 5 points in the game yesterday. A big factor in Owen Sound's turnaround. Carter George, he now leads the league in save percentage at .914, and he's also tied with Kitchener's Jackson Parsons in shutouts with 4. So Carter George continues to get things done, probably one of the better goaltenders in the Ontario Hockey League. The Attack, they are in Barrie Thursday night, and then they host Flint and Guelph. At number 9, it's the Guelph Storm. No change for them from last week. Just 2 games. They went 1-1. They had the 1 win against the Flint Firebirds, so that snapped their 3-game losing streak. Brody Crane seems to be fitting in quite nicely with the Storm after being acquired from the Niagara Ice Dogs at the OHL trade deadline. He has 3 goals in just 4 games since the trade. So he's fitting in quite well with Guelph right now. Just 2 games ahead this week for the Storm. They're at home against Sarnia, and then they head up to Owen Sound on Sunday. At number 8, it's the North Bay Battalion. They fell 3 positions this week. North Bay, they went 2-1, but their one loss was at home against the Niagara Ice Dogs, where their former goaltender, Charlie Robertson, got the better of them. This is a very good North Bay team, and they only dropped because of the loss to Niagara, because they're at the bottom of the conference, and the fact that the top teams right now are so competitive in the Ontario Hockey League. North Bay in a battle with Sudbury for top spot in the Central. Anthony Romani, he leads the league right now in points, along with Hunter Brustevich. They both have 69 points, and he's also scored in goals with 36, second in goals with 36, I should say. So Anthony Romani continues to get it done for the North Bay Battalion. They're going to be a team battling for top spot in the Central throughout the rest of this season, and North Bay, right now 1 point back of the Sudbury Wolves for first in the division, and those 2 teams play a crucial home and home this weekend. So the Wolves and Battalion, that's going to be a great battle this weekend, the Battle of Highway 17. And then after the home and home, North Bay, they will host the Barrie Colts Sunday afternoon. At number 7, it's the Sudbury Wolves. They dropped 1 position this week. The Wolves, they went 2-1 with 2 wins against the Barrie Colts and then a loss to the Erie Otters. This team, they have no problem scoring. They're getting pucks on net. They're getting tons of shots, tons of chances, so many weapons up front. But it's the discipline. That continues to be the problem, I believe, with this Sudbury Wolves team, along with the goals against. It just seems like once you get under the skin of some of these Sudbury Wolves players, they just start to unravel. They just can't keep their cool, and we saw that happen late in the game against the Erie Otters. So for the Sudbury Wolves, if they're going to have a deep run in the playoffs, they have to keep their cool. Yes, you want to play aggressive hockey. You don't want to be pushed around, but you also don't want to be, goaded into taking penalties or having your key players taking misconduct penalties and being ejected from the game or facing suspension. We saw that with Collins. He got suspended for the instigator in the final 5 minutes of the hockey game. So Sudbury, they've got a great team. On paper, they should win the Eastern Conference, but the discipline, that's where the problem is. And I'm sure for Ken McKenzie, the head coach of the Sudbury Wolves, an area he's trying to focus on and just get the systems in play. Because like I said, this is a very good Sudbury Wolves team. There's just these speed bumps that kind of, they take 2 steps forward and then another 2 steps back. So they're really not gaining any ground. And we're seeing that in the standings right now with just 1 point up on North Bay. So Sudbury, they do have that huge home and home at the Battalion. And we'll find out who's going to be the top team in the Central come the end of the weekend, and expect it to have a playoff feel. The atmosphere at the Sudbury Community Arena is going to be outstanding. Same at North Bay Memorial Gardens, 2 great Northern Ontario rinks, and it's going to be fun to see what happens there. At number 6, we have the Brantford Bulldogs. They are up 1 position. Brantford, they might be missing some key players from their lineup, but that doesn't seem to faze them. They kind of have this next man up mentality right now. The Bulldogs went 3-0 last week, including a big 3-2 win at home against the Oshawa Generals, where Zachary Lavoie had the game winner. He has been a great pickup for the Brantford Bulldogs. 4 goals, 5 assists, 9 points in 5 games since the trade from Niagara. That may be one of the better trades from the OHL trade deadline. And also, Mateo Droback became the winningest goaltender in Bulldogs franchise history. He now has 56 career wins with the Bulldogs, passing Caden Fulcher. So congratulations to Droback. Brantford, they do have 3 games this week, starting in Niagara before hosting Kingston and Mississauga. At number 5, the Sioux Greyhounds, they dropped 3 positions, or they moved up 3 positions this week, rather. They're back. They went 3-0 last week, and they were dominant in all 3 of those wins, outscoring their opponents 21-5. Sault Ste. Marie getting that offense going again. Former Barrie Colt Jacob Frasca, he's been picking it up too. A goal, 3 assists over his last 2 games. And the Greyhounds, they have a big game this weekend at home Friday night against the Kitchener Rangers for hosting Sarnia on Sunday. So it looks like the Greyhounds, they're back, and we'll see if they can continue this momentum as they chase for top spot in the West Division. At number 4, the Kitchener Rangers. They are down 2 spots this week. The week started great for Kitchener. They went into Guelph, and they won that game 5-1. And then they lost 2 in a row to the London Knights, and that includes a 10-3 defeat in Saturday's game at Budweiser Gardens. So very tough home and home there for Kitchener. With the back-to-back losses, the Rangers, they have lost top spot in the West, and they now sit 3rd, just 3 points ahead of the Saginaw Spirit, who have 3 games in hand. So things looking a little tough right now for those Kitchener Rangers, who had a good cushion in the lead there in the Western Conference. But with the London Knights, they just keep winning, and then they took 4 points away from the Rangers, and now Kitchener are looking to fend off Saginaw in the Western Conference standings. So this is a very good Kitchener team, so expect them to bounce back, but it won't be easy this weekend. 2 road games, Sault Ste. Marie, and then Saginaw. So the 2 top teams in the West Division. So we'll see if the Rangers are up for the challenge when they go on the road this weekend. At number 3, it's the Oshawa Generals. No change for them. They opened the week, though, with a 3-2 loss on the road against the Brantford Bulldogs. It was a hard-fought game at the Brantford Civic Center, but they've won 2 in a row since then against Peterborough and Windsor. This Oshawa team looking really good right now. They've been one of the hottest teams in the league. They're 7-3 over their last 10. And Jacob Oster, he has been solid in net. He's now 2nd in goals against average at .280 and 5th in save percentage at .908. So Jacob Oster has been a wall for Oshawa, and they're going to look to continue that going into this weekend. Also to note, Connor Punnett, he left yesterday's game against Windsor as a result of an injury due to a fight against Ethan Martin of the Windsor Spitfires. So we'll see if Connor Punnett misses any time. That would be a crucial injury because Punnett's been fitting in great with that Oshawa blue line. The Generals, they do have a 3-3 this weekend. Starts at home against Erie Friday night, and then they travel to Barrie and then host Ottawa. At number 2, Saginaw Spirit. No change for them either. They had a great road trip through the East Division where they went 3-0, just 1 loss in their last 6 games. That was against London, who've been red hot. So this is a Saginaw Spirit team that's rolling, and they're getting contributions throughout the lineup. They did all those big trades at the trade deadline, and it seems like the chemistry is working so far. And we'll see if they can continue that momentum this weekend because they have 3 games this week. First in Windsor Thursday before hosting Kitchener and Windsor. So that Kitchener game is going to be huge as they try and make up ground in the Western Conference standings. So that leaves us with number 1 in the power rankings this week. No surprise, really. The London Knights, no change. Their 3rd week in a row at number 1, and it just looks like London can't be stopped right now. Their winning streak is at 14 games, and they won both of their games last week against the Kitchener Rangers to take over top spot in the Midwest Division and the OHL standings. They also lost the services of Denver Barkey for the 2nd game due to suspension. But still, even though he was given that 2-game suspension, it didn't seem to faze the Knights. They're a team that scores at will. They're not afraid to play physical or drop the gloves. In fact, there were 6 fights in the game against Kitchener on Saturday night, and they're now 1st overall. So this is the London Knights team getting it done. They have 2 games this week at home against Peterborough, and then they travel to Erie. So we'll see if the Knights can extend that winning streak to 16 games by the end of it. And with the way they're playing, it's very possible. So we'll wait and see. I might have to do another video on the London Knights if that winning streak keeps going. I did a video talking about the 10-game winning streak and the players that have been contributing with the goals and the assists. So maybe I'll have to do another video breaking down this winning streak because London Knights, they've been something else. It's been quite the battle for them climbing to the top of the Western Conference standings. I know at one point fans were questioning maybe the team should sell. But Mark Hunter and Dale Hunter deciding to keep the status quo, and it's paying off right now. So let me know in the comments section down below your thoughts on the power rankings. Maybe there's a team that surprised you, or maybe a team that deserves a little more recognition. Whatever that may be, I appreciate the interactions. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you again soon.